I do have internet on my phone, so I can tell folks that the St. Louis Cardinals lost to the New York Metropolitans 11-4. That's what I got.
I watched every bit of that crumb.
So did
I watched every bit. I don't like it when the Mets got a big strong guy on that team. Like I don't care if the Cardinals. I do care. I just didn't want Pete Alonso to have a hand in it, and he did, and that bothered me. Plus, I just kind of feel like the Cardinals had a shot at that one, and it just went away fast. It goes away fast. They're facing Scherzer. He got a little side pull of some sort. He comes out. You got an opportunity, and it didn't happen. I mean,
I'm a big, strong guy.
Thank you.
So I have a hot take here.
Ooh.
Pete Alonso. I know we're making fun of him because he is a big, strong guy, and he could put several people, I think, in the hospital, or at least one person in the hospital.
Except for the old man.
Except for a 50-something coach. And he's the polar bear, and he wins the home run derby every year. And I know we can make fun of him, but is he a villain now? Because he doesn't feel like a real villain.
I know people that know him, and he's a really good guy.
That's what I'm saying.
There are certain guys that it's fun to make fun of. I honestly feel like I shouldn't make fun of a guy that I kind of know is a good guy, and he's one of them. But what he said, I can't remember the exact words, Nate, what he said about himself, and I can't remember.
I think
I'm a big, strong guy.
Oh,
I'm a big, strong guy. I'm a big, strong guy. I'm a big, strong guy.
I think he did it to himself. I think it's okay to make fun of
Oh,
him.
no, it's 100%. No, it's 100% fine to make fun of him. I just, like, when he hits a home run, when he gets a hit and drives in a run, I just don't have that vitriol
Because
towards
he's probably
him.
a good guy, and he's a good player. It's a good nickname, Polar Bear, right? He's got it on his glove, and he's productive for the Mets. I don't think he feels like a villain. It's just he said something that was kind of silly, so we're making fun of that.
Look,
I have no vitriol.
He's not a villain. John Rocker was a villain. Pete Alonso just said a goofy thing. And you know what? If I'm Pete Alonso and I hit dangers, I'm flexing to the crowd, and I'm going to embrace my words. That's what I would do.
Look, I think it's good you got a little rivalry with the Mets. I mean,
Damn right.
historically, the Cardinals and Mets have had some great competitions in postseason baseball, and this adds a little fuel to the fire. Buck Showalter's a fiery guy, and, I like how Ollie and his staff haven't backed down at all. Now, the sad part is that most of this is drawn up because the pitchers have no idea where they're throwing the ball. So it has nothing to do with intent. It's just bad pitching.
Yeah.
So that's kind of sad.
Well, they warned both our dugouts last night, and I think the Mets kind of lost their mind. Like, well, why are you warning us? We didn't do anything. We're up to bat. What would we do? But I kind of like that emotion.
I think you warn teams just to try to stay out in front of it, even if you're not warranted. So, yeah, I don't think Alonso is a villain, but I'm thinking Johnny Cueto, villain, right?
Yeah,
that guy,
like him.
and he's back, so he's a villain. And then I think of other guys like a guy who played a part in that, like with Brandon Phillips, who turned out everybody loved him on his team, and he's a funny guy and a good guy, and I kind of liked him more. I mean, not only did he start the thing with Yachty, the little tap, but then he made fun of St. Louis for not having, decent restaurants or something like that. And then when you talk to him about it, he said, I'm playing. It's fun to do. Like you. All right, I like you. I felt like giving him a little hug.
I agree. I love Brandon Phillips. I love the spiciness that he's bringing to the rivalry. I think the difference was, so Pete Alonso said, big, strong guy, I'm going to put you in the hospital. I believe, if we had the internet, I could look this up. But Brandon Phillips, didn't he call the Cardinals biatches?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he did.
He did.
Ooh.
Just like that or the real?
No, he said the real word, which I'm not going to say. I'm not going to say it, folks. I'm going to say biatch.
Hot take
great,
syndrome,
American.
baby.
I'm going to say biatch.
Can I? And this is where I kill. This is where I beat a dead horse. This is where the criticism really is right on point. I just can't remember. I don't like to misquote guys like Pete Alonso. You can misread what. Can you?
I'm a big, strong guy.
Yeah.
I'm a big, strong guy.
Yep.
Just love that.
I think the worst
I
part
love that.
is that he's there with his, I don't know if he's highlighting his hair or what's going on with that thing, but then when he threatens that he could put somebody in the hospital, that's kind of a tool bag move.
After getting double-legged by a 60-year-old. Sit down. Just sit down a little bit. You're okay. You got a goofy-ass haircut. That's fine. That's fine.
And you have credentials to talk about that. I actually quoted you to a bunch of people I said, I work with Cam, and this guy fought for a living. And I asked you on the air, if you recall, like, do you say something like that in the aftermath, or how do you handle it? And you said, you would have said something like, well, I have to do a better job of keeping an eye on who's behind me, right? That's like the best way. It implies that the guy took you down with a cheap takedown, and it also doesn't make you look like a big meathead like Pete did. So for the record, in case anyone from New York is listening, or Pete Alonso's cousin, we like Pete Alonso. We like the polar bear. We just are making fun of him because he sounded kind of awful with that.
Yeah, and this, next time, just be like, if this happens again, I'm going to have my head on a swivel, and let's see if he does that or takes me down this time or something. I'll be ready for it next time. I don't know. But again, embrace it, Petey. Embrace it. Embrace that pumpkin pie haircut you have. Embrace your strength and flex to the crowd after you hit dangers. That's what I'd do.
Dangers.
Can't use that word.
I hit dangers.
Can't use that word.
You can't say dingers?
Remember what happened?
I don't-
All the baseball writers went, oh, racism. He said
Dingers?
the N-bomb. Remember he said,
Oh.
yes.
Lewis Brinson, the Rockies mascot. When
Yes.
they were the fan was chanting "Dinger, Dinger."
No, he was trying to get Dinger's attention so he could sign a ball for his son. And all the baseball writers are like, oh my god, I gotta write an article about this racism. And the guy's like a 40-year-old family man trying to get a hold of the mascot, and it blew up all over the internet, and we bashed all of them.
You're right.
All the
Watch
writers.
your profanity.
Right.
Yeah,
We do.
That's when people feel like I'm gonna call this out even when it doesn't exist. I don't care if it doesn't exist.
Yep.
This incident I'm talking about.
They want to be the first ones to be like, look at me, I'm calling this guy out, Look, I'm good for society. Get on with yourself. Hey, real quick about Maxie Scherzer. So he kind of gets dinged up. But did you see that clip of him the other day where, we've always talked about going out and throwing a first pitch. Like, for the most part, like if I'm out there throwing a first pitch, who cares? Like, it's like whatever. But most people, like somebody maybe had a cancer victim or somebody did something, a war hero, whatever it is. So the other day, a guy goes out to throw the first pitch. Probably been waiting for, I don't know how long for that. That's his kind of a dream come true for this kid. And Maxie Scherzer goes out there and boots him off the mound because he needs to get his early warm-up throws in. And I'm just thinking, good God, you're too serious. I know you're the best of the best. I know you got two different goofy eyes. I get that. You're a St. Louis guy, fine. You act like you're tough. I get it. You're still a pitcher. But this kid's trying to throw a first pitch out. It takes 5 seconds, and you boot him out because you need to get your throws in. I don't know, man.
All right,
It's a
so
little too much for me.
here's my take on that. Like, I'm not excusing what he did, but he's a different animal. So remember, I'm pretty sure when we had Matt Adams on, I think he told this story on the air. But Scherzer, when he's going to pitch, is in a psychotic state in a sense. So I almost don't hold him accountable for the day he's pitching unless he does something illegal. So do you remember Matt Adams said he was new on the Nats, I guess it was, and Scherzer got done with his throws in the bullpen on the day he's pitching, and Adams is the new guy, and here comes Scherzer, and he holds up his fist just for a little fist tap, and Scherzer walks right by him like he doesn't even see him. Brand new teammate.
God.
And so Matt said to, I forget which player it was, one of the Nats, and said, well, what's up with that? And they go, yeah, you don't ask for a fist pound, you don't talk to him, you don't look at him on the day he's pitching.
And, by the way,
Go ahead. Yeah.
That's context, isn't it, Nate?
Yeah.
it is. Busch
It is.
Stadium.
We've got that cut too.
Yeah, Busch Stadium, they do these first pitches 30 minutes before the game. They have 30 of them. They have every fan go out there, throw the first pitch. You don't have a first pitch 2 minutes before the game when your starting pitcher is getting ready to get out there. We've seen this happen on opening day. Garrett Cole was all ticked off because the pregame ceremony went 4 minutes over, and he said it messed up his routine. If you're going to do the first pitch, do it 10 minutes, do it 30 minutes before. Don't do it when your pitcher is out there. It is kind of a funny video.
Is that what happened with Scherzer, though?
Well, yeah, I
The guy
mean,
was
this
way too late?
person, I just looked it up. This person who's trying to throw out the first pitch, I mean, the person is standing out there as Max Scherzer is throwing his, you get 8 warm-up pitches, I believe. So he's ready to pitch in a game in about 2 minutes. I don't know exactly how it went down, but that's too close to game time.
Yeah, I get you on that. But again, though, I play with a lot of great players, Hall of Famers, all that stuff. Like, I know how intense they are. I remember being in the locker room and Marty between periods, like, you don't talk to him, and that's fine. But Marty, if I'm walking by, he's going to give me a fist pump. Like, and he's a big dog. Like, there's a way to balance that. Yeah, we know you're serious. Yes, we get it. You're focused, this, that, and the other. But when you do that kind of stuff, like, it's just unnecessary. And, like, somebody throwing a first pitch out, like, that's still part of your job to let that happen.
But here's my thing, right? So, and again, I don't know. I mean, Scherzer very well at all, so I'm not even trying to come to his rescue.
But you hate him.
But I'm not real. I'm kind of either way.
Wow.
Like I don't want him. I don't want him
St.
to beat
Louis?
the Card. I don't want to. Well, he pitched against the Cardinals
Parkway
last
Central,
night.
Mizzou.
So I should root for that guy against the Cardinals.
Philanthropic. I think he's good with pets potentially.
So I was having this discussion actually last night because someone brought up Scherzer, and I think pitchers go about it differently, right? Like Chris Carpenter, day of a start, don't bother him. Waino, who is the friendliest guy on earth, right? Day of a start, he's like in his own bubble, right? He doesn't even see you if he walks in the clubhouse. And there are other guys, like I remember Kyle Loesch said, he'd come up and talk to you on the day of a start. And I was like, how come some guys you can't even make eye contact with? And he said his approach is if you put energy into making it a different day when you're starting, it's wasting energy. Like you're wasting energy by trying to make it something different than a normal day. So I guess guys are different. If a guy like Scherzer gets locked in and amped up, I kind of excuse him for whatever he does because that's the routine he's got himself into that's put him at the top of his game.
Don't be an ass, though. There's a balance. I get all that, man. Everybody's got to go through that kind of stuff. But you're an ass to your teammates because you're so serious. Like, it's counterproductive.
That's fair.
In my opinion.
I think that's fair in a spring training game to not give Matt Adams the fist bump. I do think, look, I understand you're intense. Now, maybe he doesn't want it touched with his throwing hand. He doesn't want anybody to touch it.
Oh,
okay.
get outta here.
Give him a little left-handed fist bump. It's a spring training game. Come on, Max.
Do you remember? I don't think you guys were around. Well, when Gold's Gym was open, right? Apparently, the guy who was in charge of opening up the store, right, a big weightlifting guy, got locked out. So he came over to us, and it was as I was doing show prep, and you guys know I'm locked in, right?
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
So he knocks
yeah.
on the door, and this wasn't me as a person. I'm a nice guy. But he got in my kitchen as I was doing show prep.
Oh,
so I put this guy in a headlock, and he was a big guy.
Big, strong guy?
Yeah, big, strong guy. But that's how when I do show prep, you guys see it. I'm locked in, so I can. Scherzer and I are exactly the same because we're both at the top of our game.
Sure.
Jimmy smacked me around the other day for talking to him during show
You'd rather
prep.
be gutted alive by a mountain lion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I would.
Don't talk to Jimmy when he's doing show prep.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No. He
Yeah, that's
crazy.
it. Yeah, that's
he
it.
crazy.
That's
Hey,
why I don't come in early, to be honest with you, is I'm afraid of Jim. It's not because I wake up later and want to come in as close to 7 as possible. It's more because I don't want to mess up Jim's rhythm.
No, nobody does. Get them in, by the way, 855-282-8255. You know how we do it.
I can't look on the text line.
You know how we do it. Where was Goldilocks last night? His bat's on fire and needed a rest. I didn't say that. That was 314.
People are angry. So last night I saw people killing Dylan Carlson. I think we talked about it on the air. He's been really hot lately. If you go like his last 15 games, so I just looked it up because I remember it wasn't too long ago. He was like way below 200. So April 19th, he was hitting 158. Now he's at 237. When I point that out, I'm not saying 237 should put you in the MVP candidate. Please understand, I'm trying to explain where he was and where he is now, and that things can turn around. And of course, that I get a million tweets at me like, do the outfielders. How about O'Neill? I was just saying Dylan Carlson.
DeYoung, why are you only focusing on the positives?
Well, they could look that up, too. You know.
He's hitting 305 in May with 18 hits and 59 at bats.
Pretty
So
good. And he's going the other way.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't looked at DeYoung. I like him, and I'm rooting for him. And the other day, I just took a peek, kind of like if you know something in your fridge is spoiling, and you open the lid, you don't want to see the hair and the bacteria on it. You peek into it. That's why I haven't checked on DeYoung.
it's not going well. He's 2 for 21 with 6 strikeouts.
Oh,
Wow, rights holder compares Paul DeYoung to rotten casserole in his refrigerator. That's the headline.
But
that's the headline right there.
The way you do that though
Tweet
is
that,
exactly how it works now, right? You take one thing, and this goes for both sides, Nate.
Yeah.
Both sides do it. They take one line.
And by the way, we always talk about both sides on the
Yes.
show. We always make sure we
Fair
have equal
and
time
balanced.
to both sides. Go ahead.
For me, it's all based on just look.
all I'm
It
trying to
is.
make a point. I was trying to preemptively keep it out of the political lane. But you
Oh,
just rammed
Yeah,
into it.
you always
My
do
point
that. What's your point?
My point was that's a beautiful example of what goes on in social media. So well done. I was actually complimenting you.
I don't
cat
need your
is the-
compliments.
The cat is the Scherzer of local sports sideline reporting.
Darn right.
That's quite the compliment
5'6"
right there.
Darn right I am.
563 area code. Where the heck is that at? Dang, dog.
It ain't local
Man.
because they wouldn't like me.
I know the cat loves them, but McFarland gotta go.
That'd be central and northeast Iowa.
Oh,
I
Good old
gotta tell you, if you go to the stats like I did with Carlson as a rights holder to try to show improvement, if you actually go back to when things went south with TJ McFarland, I think it started with me interviewing him by the pool. I'm afraid to bring that up,
Ooh.
but every time I see him losing it, I think, can I be blamed for this?
no, you can't.
I didn't think about that.
That's almost exactly when it went south.
You know, TJ McFarland, I got to look up his numbers career, but you could have seen how that scenario was just the perfect situation last year in 1 year or a partial segment of a year where everything goes right, where a player like that couldn't necessarily sustain that. And I know it's easy to say that after the fact, but there wasn't a tremendous track record.
You're saying kind of return to the mean sort of a.
Well, in the same
I get
way,
it.
for example, Tyler O'Neill, and I'm not trying to make the exact comparison, but it was going to be
Charlie Marlowe rips all Cardinals.
It's all
Actually
of them.
good
tweet
that they
it.
lost.
Tweet it out.
It's good that they
with
lost,
Irish last names.
and here's why. No, it's almost impossible for Tyler O'Neill to replicate last year. He had a 150 OPS plus. So, I mean, surely he shouldn't be hitting 200.
Don't call him Shirley.
Surely,
His name's Tyler.
then you have a comma. Tyler O'Neill should not be hitting 200, but I don't think he'll ever have 150 OPS plus, and probably won't be top 10 in the MVP. That was one of those unbelievable.
I don't think you know
seasons.
that. I understand what you're
Well-
saying, but I don't think you know. Yes, is he having a terrible year? Yes. But was that a young player taking the next step? That doesn't mean every season's going to be as good. But I mean, he crushed it at the minor league level, and he's got something that a lot of guys with power don't have, speed that you think could boost those statistical areas, right? So I wouldn't say he couldn't.
Okay, but again, listen to what I said. I said top 10 MVP,
I heard
150
that.
OPS plus. I still think he's going to be a very good, above average major league player. But it's hard to get to those type of numbers.
I agree. And with TJ, we've seen that with relievers, right? Relievers can be really good one year, not so good the next, right? Maybe more so than any other position on a baseball team. Relievers will have ups and downs. But he was keeping the ball down. And look over the years who the Cardinals have had who have been like their double play specialists. Bowman 1 year, right? Seth Maness, right? It's not a long shelf life for that, but they kind of came out of nowhere and became double play machines. I think for TJ, we're not seeing him keep the ball down. I think it's as simple as that. I think it's somebody's got to fix mechanically. You got to keep the ball down.
And with Tej, as we call him, so his career ERA in 10 years, 4.10. And last year was a 2.56. I was just saying that last year was an incredible year. Now, again, he shouldn't have a 9 ERA right now. But I think a regression back to a 4.5 ERA, that shouldn't have been that surprising.
Yeah, 5.63 channels back in. By the way, he's from Quad Cities, Iowa. TJ has a 9 ERA in 13 innings pitched, a 1.95 WHIP, and has allowed 5 runs to score twice in the past 3 appearances. Cardinal love from the Quad Cities. What up, homeboy?
Well, I mean, yes, we can't look up stats because we don't have internet.
I
But-
actually do on my phone.
All right, I can't.
I'm going to ask you specific questions and just
That's
watch
fine.
you melt.
Oh, I got a question.
Like everything else, I'll
So,
guess.
Kat, real quick, TJ
Yeah.
McFarland last year, how many strikeouts and how many innings pitched?
He had a plethora of innings, and the strikeouts were there, Charlie. But as you know, that really wasn't his goal. His goal was to get the ball on the ground and create a double play scenario, which he was quite successful at. This year, though it's a smaller sample size, he's scuffling. As I said in the previous segment, I believe he's just got to get the ball down.
Now,
I'll
when
tell you
when you say a Cardinal player is scuffling, do you immediately get a text from Bally to say stop that?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
You
He
know
did
that.
get. You're right, Cat. He got 12 double plays in 38 games.
No, he
That's
was
not-
like their
that's pretty
double,
good.
and
In huge spots.
And he's got some this year before he was interviewed at the pool. He was kind of doing the same thing.
Yeah, here's the thing. You guys were bringing up McFarland. The game was over by the time it got to McFarland. The first, the guy who was on him, Hicks, stop this nonsense with Hicks. He's not a starter.
Stop. How do you know? You're
He's
giving
not.
up on the.
Yes.
See,
Jimmy, this is the big leagues. This is not learn to
say
pitch.
it like McCarver.
Oh.
It's the big league.
Did you hear Danny Mac and Jimmy Edmonds last night? They were like, "Oh my God, this game is taking forever. It's boring, and it's all because Hicks set the pace of the game last night, and he was awful on the mound. He had no feel. He never has any feel. He pitches out of the stretch. It's like he doesn't watch Michaelis or Wainwright or Matz.
I guarantee that Danny wasn't killing Hicks. So here's the thing.
No, I'm
here's the thing.
expressing what he
I
didn't
would-
go for.
First of all, Hicks is coming back from surgery. It's far removed from pitching, okay? So it's going to take a little while. Now, if you said to me, are you surprised that they really went ahead to make him a starter? I would have said yes, because I would think, A, you're getting less innings out of the bullpen for a guy who you're concerned with that, right? Secondly, he's got a track record there at the big league level where he can be a weapon later in games. So I was for him being a guy out of the bullpen. Reyes, different story, because he had his troubles in the bullpen. Good place to get him out of that and utilize his skill set where he has a good repertoire of pitches. And now he's hurt and we don't know when he's come back. But I was convinced by talking to folks around the Cardinals that for health-wise, to get some out of Hicks, who we all agree when healthy has really good stuff, health-wise, he's better in the rotation.
But he can't pitch.
Well,
I don't care if he's got great
But,
stuff. There's
I mean-
a lot of guys who had great stuff. Carlos
So
Martinez
how many
had great
starts
stuff.
as a starter has he made? 5, 6?
What?
And they're
No,
building him up
Jordan Hicks has made. Let me look
as
at
a
his.
starter.
Yeah, as a. Well, okay, I'm talking about this year.
No, I'm talking about in his major league career. He hasn't started before. This is his what? Last night was his.
He
fifth,
hasn't been
sixth?
that bad. His
Okay.
ERA is
How
like
many starts?
4.2.
It's not the ERA.
No, I can't.
It's-
Just
it's-
look up how many starts he's had.
He's appeared in 8 games this year, 6 starts.
Okay, so 6 starts into his starting career in Major League Baseball after coming off surgery and being off. And remember, 2020 opted out with being a diabetic and everything. And you're ready to pull the plug on it?
Yeah, he's not ready to be a big league starter.
I think he's shown. Look, last night wasn't good.
It was
But
horrible.
in his
Oh my
other
God, it was
starts,
the
he was
worst.
fine. He went into last night's game with an ERA of whatever, 3-something. And he was throwing, like, topping out at 65 pitches because he wasn't ready to go full tilt.
Well, I'll tell you this much. If you keep trotting out Jordan Hicks every 5th day, you're going to have about 10 people in the ballpark come mid-July. So, if that's the product
I disagree,
that you
and
want,
I think
if
you're a
that's the
little
product,
hard. I think you're a little harsh.
I think
mean,
if that's the
go.
product that the Cardinals
He's
want to
on,
run
right?
with, then you know what? I think it's horrible. It's a horrible product.
But I mean, you're cutting it. Like, look at it. I can't.
I
Get
have
on
it right
myself.
here.
His ERA after his last start was what, 3.4? Now that's not ERA. Isn't the tell-all stat, but it is an
4.15.
indicator that a guy hasn't been horrible, right?
He's been pretty horrible.
His ERA going into yesterday's start was what?
I don't think he's been horrible. Here's the deal.
Just answer my question.
Well, I don't know. It's 4.21, so
It was
it's probably a little bit
4.15.
better.
It was 4.15. The lowest it's been this year was when after his game in Arizona, he got it down to 3.65.
Okay, he's not been horrible.
Here's the deal. You also have to
Pretty
remember.
horrible.
You have to remember that Hicks. The only reason he's actually a starter. Now it's health related, but also he's going to be a bulk pitcher where they can control his rest. Whether that's a starter or
That's
a
health.
long. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But the reason he's actually starting is because of Jack Flaherty being out. So when Jack Flaherty comes back, we hope that soon. I promise you that he's going to take that spot, and Hicks probably becomes almost a piggyback situation off of Flaherty as Flaherty gets built up. And Hicks is most likely going to be a long reliever out of the pen, and I think that's fine for his role. And if somebody else gets hurt down the road and he gives them a spot start, but him being a bulk pitcher is all about controlling his rest. That's the only reason.
I agree with that scenario, but I'll say this: every time you try to plan it that way, another pitcher goes.
100%. No, that I promise you We do this all the time on the radio. We'll come into a season. Oh, they got 6 starters. Who's going to come out?
I agree.
We all do. They got 7 starters. There is always an injury. I promise you, by the time Flaherty gets back, somebody else will be banged up.
And I agree. Every year I say, well, they should be good. They got enough starting depth, and they never do. Like, I'm always fooled by that, so I'm as guilty as anyone.
Here's a legit question from the text line, because you know how they do it. They're always dead serious. Better ERA at the end of the year, TJ or Albert?
Albert Pujols. Hey, by the way, breaking news, because I like to look up these stats.
I can't.
Well, here's the deal. I want to try to either start a salacious rumor. I don't really want to debunk it. I actually want to throw fuel on the fire. Mm-hmm. So when Cat did his interview with TJ McFarland, now that was sometime during the Marlins series, correct? So
yeah, it was in Florida.
TJ McFarland, he had no earned runs allowed in his first 4 outings of the year. Now, his third outing was at the Marlins, but I think what happened was you discombobulated him, and then he went to Cincinnati. He had another good outing, but it was kind of in his head. And your interview, it didn't really hit home.
It didn't take its toll.
It didn't take until he got back to St. Louis and thought about it. He got home, he put his bags up, and he goes, man, that interview was really bad. Next thing you know, he gives up 1 earned in a third of an inning. He gives up 2 earned in a third of an inning.
Oh, you ruined
This man gave up 5 earned runs over his next 3 outings, which combined 1 inning. So I'm not very smart, but I believe that would be an ERA of, I believe, 45 over his next 3 outings. After that interview really settled into his sight.
His soul.
I put it out there, and I didn't look because kind of like looking in the fridge at the bacteria-laden container.
Which you said Paul DeYoung is basically an old.
I didn't
he's
want to
an
look.
old. What do you call it? A goulash. He's an old spoiled goulash.
Yeah, it could be goulash. I like goulash. I'd probably finish that instead of putting it in the fridge. But I didn't want to look to see if that's where things went off the tracks. But in truth, so let's be honest, I self-reported that possibility, okay? On this show, I said, I think it could have been that. But according to your statistical data set, thank you for that, Charlie. Mm-hmm. I talked about that all day yesterday. He had 2 good outings in the wake of that.
Well, your interview, was it after his Marlins outing or before? They won 5-1, and he pitched scoreless inning.
Which would be better for my case? It was before, so that way it didn't jinx it.
Let me ask you this, though, because I think this is what the fan base would love. I would love it for this show. So let's say you did actually ruin TJ McFarland. Well, the way to get him back is to do this interview again. And it's not a good look for a pitcher if they have a 9 ERA to do an interview with a sideline reporter with toothpaste on his nose and a floppy hat. But so he's going to get crushed if he does this, but it might be what he needs to get back on track.
So, and I think that's actually funny, and I think it would have traction. It's a good idea because you're a content generator. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But how to sell it to TJ? This is his career.
Sure.
And now you want to say, hey, I know you've been pitching a long time. Getting to the major leagues is a long shot for any professional athlete, and you've had a good career. I mean, a solid career, a lot of years in it. So you're obviously – I think the thing you need to get back on track is to re-interview with the guy with a floppy hat and toothpaste on his nose. Do you think that would be an easy sell?
It wouldn't, and I don't think the fan base would love it, which is why I would love it.
With toothpaste, though, if you don't have any like acne cream, you just put toothpaste on your heaters on your face. You ever do that?
No.
I'm just letting you know.
You put toothpaste?
Dang right.
What is this?
Dang right. Yeah, put toothpaste on your heater.
Why, to clean it? What?
Yeah, it just dries it up.
Here's another use for toothpaste. If you're in a rental situation and you got some holes in the wall, all you need to fix it temporarily is toothpaste, paper, and a little paint. Because toothpaste can be temporary spackle because it will harden in place. And what you do is you put a piece of paper over it to stabilize it, right? And then you put a little more on it and you sand it and you paint it, and that'll hold up for a good 2 weeks until after you get your deposit back. I know as a renter, you probably don't like that information out there.
Yeah, that's tough.
But
that's
it's
tough.
true. You can use
put a picture over it.
No, they're going to look behind the picture.
Yeah, that's true.
You take all the holes, you can fill it with toothpaste, sand it down with really fine paper, and it'll look good until it starts cracking and drying out because it's not spackle. But the whole to fix it properly, you'd have to go to Ace, which is a pain, pay $1.50 for spackle. It's not expensive, and actually do it right. When you have toothpaste right there, just fool the guy that owns the rental property.
Don't you feel like most people have spackle around the house?
If you're a renter, no.
Toothpaste is more expensive than spackle.
If there was
Yeah, but
a
it's
small
there.
hole,
My cam, it's there. You
yeah,
know?
but
Yeah, that's
going
true.
to Lowe's or Home Depot is not that difficult.
I
bet you
love
they
it.
have. I bet you they have spackle at
I love Ace.
a Walgreens. I would bet.
I'm just saying it's right there. It's the laziest move you can.
That's very lazy.
You're fixing. See, you're taking it from a guy who
no,
rents.
I
to
wouldn't even
others.
do that if I was a renter.
I did it in college all the time. You know,
Toothpaste?
someone took a bat to the wall or something like that when a drunken stupor happened somewhere. Yeah, toothpaste can fix it, and paper.
Hicks is not done as a starter. He had 6 starts. It's too early to say he failed at it. How many
know.
starts does he need to say he's failed, though? 15 or something?
No, because then I do think you move him somewhere else and use him out of the pen.
Good.
But
Let's
give him
just
a
have
chance.
public tryouts at Busch Stadium.
Give him a
Let's see who
chance.
else wants
And
to
then-
throw. Maybe anybody down in South County want to go out there and
Yeah.
throw.
Have you seen
Franklin
Jordan Hicks?
County.
No.
Have you seen Jordan Hicks look great on at the major
The
league
dude
level?
threw like 6 first pitch strikes last night against 19 batters.
I'm
He
not
walked-
saying it was a good outing. I
80
asked you a question.
82
Has he,
pitches,
has he
39
excelled at the
strikes.
big league level before?
Yeah. I
Has
mean,
he? And you're
going to
compare him to some guy off the street? Really?
Oh.
South County.
South
Some-
County.
From Val County.
He's not a starter. If he wants to start, he should go to the minor leagues and learn how to start.
You
and then come back
understand
up.
that this was like the team thinking how to keep this guy live and healthy. This
Yeah.
wasn't Hicks saying I'm not going to pitch unless I'm a starter.
Well, I'm
I
glad he
think you're-
decided to pitch this year. So
You're
now-
angry because he looked
I'm not
bad
angry.
last night.
I'm
I
not
like
angry.
That. I
He's
respect
boring.
that.
He's boring to watch, and the whole team feeds off that
Right.
energy.
Have you ever seen him though in at the end of games where he breaks off 104, 105 mile an hour?
That's not exciting to me.
It is.
I
to
like
me.
I like to watch a pitcher deal strikes and work fast and pitch. And Jordan Hicks doesn't pitch. So I don't go to games to watch exit velocity. I don't go to games to watch a guy throw 105. I go to games to watch. I mean, so that would totally throw out the idea. Who's a better pitcher, Greg Maddux or Jordan Hicks in your book?
Hicks.
I mean, what? You got me with that question. I surrender my position.
Thank
Come
you,
on,
Jimmy.
Nate. You're better than that.
Hold on. Who's a better player, Babe Ruth or Tyler O'Neill?
You see, you guys got me.
Johnny Cass.
So,
Well,
so
he's not alive.
My thing is this, Nate.
This is a very
You don't
I
liberal
know
also
that.
position
think
you're taking.
I'm surprised by this because I think generally I'm on board with like a lot of
Oh.
your takes because I think you're a smart guy. But you're saying Hicks. There were times where Hicks. It wasn't just the fastball. I mean, the movement he gets. It's like a video game. There are plenty of times. I guarantee you watched it when he
Yeah.
was closing and you were like, "Damn, this kid's good." And now you're forgetting that because he was boring last night in a process of trying to stretch out and be a starter. I'm saying give it a little time. I respect the fact that
much
you're angry
time?
from a bad loss last night, and it was bad.
I'm just trying to figure out how much time you want to give it because it's 2 months.
No, it's his sixth start, and they weren't all bad. There's enough in there to keep the thing going. Secondly, they don't have any other starter.
Let's
Well,
hit the
that's
text
another
line. They'll figure it
conversation.
out. If Hicks is going to continue as a starter, is it too much to ask him to learn how to wind up? To pitch out of the stretch is for relievers who come in with men on base.
Isn't Corbin Burns pitching off the stretch? And he's a
A lot of
reigning
guys
Cy
say that.
Young.
A lot of guys mix it up. Some
I
guys
don't know.
don't like pitching out of the stretch. Some guys do that all the time. You know,
So-
it's up to the pitcher.
I don't like to agree with Jim, but in this
Well, then you'd
particular,
be right more often instead of being wrong so often.
here's the deal though. I actually think Hicks has not been that bad,
He hasn't been.
and I'm okay with it continuing to happen until Flaherty gets back. However, I think Nate certainly has a point with the fact that you are doing this at the big league level, and it's not like you have this unbelievable bullpen or somebody to back him up and throw 3 innings, that it's also not helping you win games right now at the big league level if this man is going 3 and 4 innings. I think when they thought about this, and I know Drew Verhagen was hurt for a while and he's back, but they probably thought they could do a little piggyback situation for a while, knowing Hicks was not going to throw more than an inning or 2 and build up. So I think it's fair to say, in my opinion, I don't think Hicks has been that bad. He hasn't been elite, but this right now is also not helping you win games at the big league level.
Hey, dumbass, South County is not redneck. Are you guys dipshites?
Yes, we
Hey,
are.
Settle down. Yes, I am. I'm from Hillsboro, by the way. I'm the biggest redneck you know. So if we're going to chirp rednecks, I could do it. I got the green light.
So can I.
Get on with yourself.
So after
No,
his start
you
on
can't.
May
You're from
9th,
Huntley.
his ERA was 3.78, which isn't going to win you a Cy Young, generally speaking, but it was fine. The last couple starts, he hasn't been as good, but it hasn't been awful from day one. Last night was a bad one. He even said after the game it was frustrating because he couldn't locate his fastball. But you're not ready to pull the plug on that. Secondly, do they have a better option now than Jordan Hicks? And the number 3 reason, as we're going through the full data set, is that they really believe his stuff will play because it has as a guy coming out of the bullpen, and they think they can get him on track. And if he's your 5th starter and it's Jordan Hicks with that kind of stuff, you would think that option has a lot of promise.
Yes, and to me, we shouldn't just focus on ERA. It's more about the man eventually, he needs to get to a point where he can throw 6 innings. He needs to be able to throw deep into a game to not stress the bullpen.
Agreed.
But if we're also so that to me that's the main point. If you can't have 3 and 4 inning starts. I know previously it went 5+ and he had thrown 80 pitches, did it again, although it wasn't very efficient. But if we're focusing on ERA, Steven Matt's career ERA is 4.33, and he got a $44 million contract. So all I'm trying to say is an ERA that is in the low 4s for a starting pitcher is not that bad whatsoever.
No.
But Jordan Hicks
Or sub 4 is good.
100%, especially nowadays. Nowadays, absolutely. But Jordan Hicks is not giving you great chances to win a lot of these games when he's throwing 4 innings.
I understand that, and I'm not arguing that point. I'm saying it's not time to pull the plug. And also, the reason I'm focusing on ERA is because I don't have access to the internet, and that's the one that I came up with before I lost it. And I'm not trying to say the internet thing is something that the listener at home cares about. It's like when our boys in the booth say it's too cold or the game's taking too long. I don't care that a game goes long, and I don't think anyone cares that I don't have internet. I'm trying to explain
Wait,
why
is that
I don't
me?
have much of an argument.
Am I the boy in the booth?
No, our boys last night. You were saying that they were complaining that the game was taking.
I got you.
Here's one
Danny
for Nate.
never does that, by the way.
No, he
Danny
actually
never does that because Danny like has a feel for the fans like I've never seen. Like he's not there to say this is a terrible game. He's there to make the game exciting. And there are games that take a long time that are exciting too. There are boring ones. I admit last night wasn't a whole lot to watch last night. But Danny ain't going to be the guy to say, he doesn't do that.
The Cat defends every suck-ass player on this awful team. Well, that wasn't very nice.
I don't
That wasn't very
really.
nice. No, he doesn't. Translucent powdered donut chimes in. Nate, why are you so angry? You're a young man full of life. You're clever, and you would be fun to hear takes from you if you weren't so riled up. Enjoy your youth. Look where you're at. It's only up from here.
Yeah, I
That's
wouldn't
actually
look
cool.
around us because it's not like we are the epitome of success in broadcasting.
I
That
like
might
when he
depress
goes-
him and make him angrier.
We like
I
Sir
don't-
Nathaniel. coming
What do
from
you
the
think
ropes.
about that, though, Nate?
What?
That
the
question.
Cats, who? The
The
texter?
texture.
I mean, it's a radio show, and I don't enjoy
There it
watching
is.
Jordan Hicks start, so I wouldn't
There
say
it
that
is.
makes me an angry individual, bud.
But people were saying that there's like they fell asleep and they woke up. There's 10 different pitchers last night going at it, and it just took forever. Nate is the youngest old I know, and he's right. It's painful to go to a game when Hicks pitches. 2 hours for 4 innings is unwatchable. Bob, the woodworker. They're coming in hot, baby. They're coming in hot. I'm just saying.
Nate's not wrong, but neither is Cat because it's not
I'm more right.
time
be
to
honest.
pull the plug. But
Then I'm right. That
when
was all my
Flaherty's
whole
back,
argument.
when Flaherty's back, and I don't care if Flaherty's first start, he can only go 4 innings. Let him do it and let Hicks back him up.
I want to hear Seth. Seth, I'm going to give our parameters so you don't get mad at me again. I just want to know, not
I
about the
love you,
Blues
Jim.
power play, I just want to know, do you think, based on this question, and Charlie can jump in,
But don't recap.
You loaded it. You
hey,
loaded
don't
it.
recap.
Yeah.
Because we don't ever
He
do
was-
that.
I'll make
So
it
he
quick.
was re-
I'm just asking you, is this a fair question, Charlie?
Just
'Cause you're-
ask the question.
No, because you're going to kill me. Is it time to pull the plug on Jordan Hicks, the starter? Well, first off, is that a fair question?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Is it time?
Yeah, I think that we should have kept Woodford as a fifth starter. I liked him. I think
I like him too.
I liked him. He was worth going, 5+ innings. And the thing with Hicks is that I don't dislike him pitching per se, but he only goes 4 innings a game. So every 5th day we're using up our bullpen.
But you do
And I like
understand that was part of the plan is to build
I know,
him
but
up.
it's kind of hurting us though in a way because then we have to throw in 4 or 5 pitchers every 5th
I get
day,
that.
and it's just kind of I don't know. It just it doesn't work very
So you
well.
say pull the plug.
Yeah, well, in a month from now, this whole conversation, Flaherty's going to be starting, so it won't really matter. And if he can stay healthy, barring any setbacks, he'll be back in. And then I like the idea of Hicks coming in and throwing 2-3 innings if and when Flaherty only throws 4 innings, and we kind of ease him in and throwing. But when Flaherty is on, he's going to go 7 innings.
But I always say, you never know what's going to happen with the rotation.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows? Even if Flaherty makes it back in a month, he's throwing off the mound. They said when he threw up the first mound, his first in earnest off the mound outing, I think it was on the last road trip. They said that was like the start of spring training. So we're still a little time removed if everything goes right, as you say. But then who knows if someone else could pull something or whatever.
I don't mind the experiment. Like, I'm glad that we tried it, but it's been 2 months now. It hasn't really worked too much, so I think it's just time to move on. I like him as a middle reliever. I think he can go 2-3 innings, but when he starts going his second time around the lineup, he just starts getting more hittable.
See, I don't really know if that works either because if he's going to go multiple innings, you have to throw strikes. And that's probably the biggest issue that Hicks has had all year long is consistently throwing strikes.
I agree with that. But I don't buy the second time around the order because I don't think anyone has filthier stuff than Hicks.
I don't think
care if you see it. If he's throwing strikes, which is an if, where I agree with you, he actually, as a minor leaguer, would uptick with his velocity as a starter. He'd be hitting 102 in the 7th inning as a starter at times in the minors. Granted, he was still learning the craft, but I do think the key is he's got to be more efficient to get there, and that means throwing strikes. So I agree with you.
Sir Nathaniel, who's a more boring pitcher, Gallegos or Hicks? Who's slower at the windup and all that? Because didn't Gallegos take forever too?
He does.
He does.
He does. And there are times it almost looks like I'm not that interested in pitching. Now, he's good. He's been really good. But there are times where he's on the mound, and it's like 30, 40 seconds between pitches, almost like if I stall enough, maybe they'll just call the game. And which I don't get because he's really a good dude, and he has good stuff, but there are times that he does take a lot of time between pitches.
How about that beautiful graphic that Bally put up last night about game times throughout the Cardinals organization, where the Cardinals games, I believe it was 3 hours and 5 minutes, 2021, 2022, stayed the same. Then they showed the 3 levels of the minors, where you have 20, 30-minute differences. The A-ball league was like almost 50 minutes.
Yeah.
It went from something like
It was like 2:27.
It was under 2.5 hours.
Perfect. Yeah.
Like a 40+ minute difference because of pitch clock. Now that might be even too short of a ball game.
Please understand too that at the minors, right, they're not really trying to do everything they can to win. They want to win, but there are other things at play. Like you will see guys playing a position they've never played before because they want to get him some reps at that position. They'll wrap things up. Okay, like we got a bus to Durham now or whatever. There are better than I do, right? There are other things at play, so it's not a great comparison. But perhaps the pitch clock will change that.
I think time of game is an issue, obviously, but this becomes a repeating talking point that probably becomes exhausting. But it's just about the pace. And Hicks doesn't allow for the game to develop any pace. And I can't think of any successful starting pitcher, at least in watching baseball as long as I have. I can't think of any successful starting pitcher that's been out there as a human rain delay and been overly successful.
There are guys, but I would say the bulk of the really good ones just want to get the ball and throw it.
What about
like Scherzer?
What about Lester? Didn't he take forever?
He did. It's a good
Lester.
one. That's a good one. Yeah, he took a lot of time.
Yeah.
Hey,
and the reason
good for you, Seth.
And one more thing, the reason we're in this situation is because we had a chance to go out and get a 5th start in the offseason. We didn't do it.
Well, I honestly,
we could have gotten Kyle McHugh.
I think that, to be honest, I was like, maybe we'll see Liberatore. They got guys in the minors that I would put ahead of that. Like I thought they were fine doing this. What I didn't know Flaherty would be this long. Reyes, I mean, at one point, Reyes was in the mix to be a starter too before he was shut down. So, like we said, you can always think you have enough starting pitching. You never do. But I like the other options that they had, including, I thought, if it were me, to be honest, I would have kept Hicks in the bullpen. But like I said, I was won over when people explained the health reasons for putting him in the rotation, then I was on board with it.
On a happy note last night, Alberto goes to 10th in all-time hitting list.
Pretty
Did
good.
I say that right?
Pretty good.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All-time hits, 10th on the West.
Good
Very
job,
good.
Albert.
And
we love you.
there are times, I will say, this season where you're like, it kind of looks like Albert's wearing down a little. And then, like last night, he looked like Albert again. I guess that's when you're at that point in your career, I guess there's going to be peaks and valleys like that. But, overall, he's been good, right?
To me, he should be in the lineup. I mean,
Get him in there. Let's go. And we'll go to the golf tournament and get all those goodies. Hey, Jimmy?
Are they doing it again this
right.
year?
Hell yeah.
When is it?
Hell yeah. Probably in July. Hopefully Maddie Holiday comes and hosts the whole thing. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, I just want my bag.
But Albert can host now.
Oh, yeah, Alberto. Well, they might be out of town. A lot of times they're out of town.
No, he'll schedule it for a Monday
Yeah.
off.
No,
day.
they do it when they're home. They
Yeah,
always
okay.
do when they're home.
That was dumb on my part. You're right. But sometimes Albert wasn't there. I remember. Anyway,
Well,
doesn't matter.
he did play for another team briefly.
That's right. I'm an idiot. That's it. Real quick before we go to break, what's with all these fights in the stands at the ball game? It's May. Why are you fighting in the stands? Do you see that fight with the Cubs and these guys in the stands are just kicking the crap out of each other? And I'm just thinking like,
Friendly
it's
confines.
May. It's May. What do you yell? What are you mad about? It's not like somebody like ran somebody over. Or, I don't know. It's the weirdest thing. There's fights out the wazoo at these games.
So when is the proper month to start fighting?
I don't know. Later in the year when it's meaningful. Like, what are you pissed
Flag
about?
Day, like Clabe said.
I'm trying to find this fight. Where is it?
It's somewhere. I just
think,
saw it.
dude, this is our society. Like, go to an airport. People are getting into fights. They're yelling
God.
at gate agents for their flight being delayed.
Bill
We got,
O'Reilly.
how many shootings every weekend in St. Louis because our leadership is so terrific. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's everywhere. So why would it be any different at a ball game?
Oh, I don't know. Oh, how about that stupid biatch and 911 call that works for 911?
No,
And
I don't know. What
lady-
is that? Work for
Okay,
911.
911 emergency. The 911 emergency. She works for that, whatever the hell it's called. And that shooting in Buffalo, somebody's in the back, like whispering to her, like, "Hey, we have a gunman," and she's like yelling at the guy, and then hangs up on him. And now she's leaving her job. They're putting her on permanent leave and stuff like that. Like, what kind of psycho are you? Anyway, I don't know why that popped in my head.
No,
but-
I've seen that.
You see that?
I didn't see this case, but I've seen other ones where, their job is to, try to calm the person down, not realizing maybe they just saw 5 people stab right in front of them,
Yeah.
but also to calm them down so they can get the information so they can get the response going, right? But
Do your
sometimes these
job.
people are awful.
God, piss me
Sometimes
off.
they are. Like every other group, like sometimes sideline reporters are awful.
She should go to jail for a year for that.
They ruin
Nutbag.
they ruin a relief pitcher's career
Probably cost him another $3 million contract next year.
because of the toothpaste.
100%.
Because there's no commercial breaks in the minor leagues. Also, maybe why the games are shorter.
No, this is where sometimes context matters. You got to look.
what
The whole graphic, which I'm sure they tweeted it out. They had some good graphics last night. You always do, by the way. But the Carlson
Mostly I put them together.
Carlson splits. But this was comparing 2021 to 2022. So nothing was different in terms of the games and how they're conducted besides the pitch clock. It would be pretty hard to argue that this did not have almost 100% to do with the pitch clock when you have drastic changes of 20, 30, and 40-plus minutes. And at the big league level, there was absolutely no change.
Cardinals' offense is an absolute mess. You have 2 hitters in a lineup, and the rest of the team is swinging for the fences. Mets are using all fields and putting the ball in play. Sanderson.
He's actually right. I mean, It was pretty stark last night looking at the difference in approach. The Mets were going
What's
the other way.
approach?
That's a word I use to talk about how a batter takes the whole big picture of his at bat into context. So I use the word approach. A lot of times people that aren't baseball insiders like me are confused by that term because I coined it.
Sure.
But that's what I mean. Like, you all look at the Mets. They just flicked it the other way last night. Beat the shift.
By the way, why didn't Corey Dickerson, on
Why
a
didn't
ball
he
hit the
throw?
left field, why is he not throwing the ball home?
I'll be honest.
What is he doing?
I wanted to see like a replay of that to see, and I didn't. It was a little odd, right?
You might not get him, but left fielder should probably be throwing the ball to the plate.
Seemed like there would be a shot there,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I agree.
Jimmy,
with
what'd Charlie say yesterday? Data point?
data point.
Is that what he?
Data
no,
set.
data set. Data
Data
set.
set.
Another very common term
Never heard
used
it.
all the time that apparently you guys have never heard of it. So
I never heard. The other ones you said, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. But when you said that, I'm like, I don't know if I've heard that. Although I'm not digging into any data sets or anything. So
but everything you watch is data. Everything you watch. It's kind of a gambling term.
I call it data.
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 Who cares?
It doesn't matter.
I'm
I love
a
when Nate
gosh
talks.
darn
I agree with
disaster
you.
when it comes to this stuff.
What did I say?
I'm a gosh darn disaster when it comes to this stuff.
Well, at least I didn't curse. I love when Nate talks, and I agree with you 100% of the time. Craig in Arizona. He lives in Arizona.
So,
On the border.
I will say this too.
He's a border agent.
Yeah.
Last
Poor
night
guy.
was an awful, awful loss. Okay, so we'll agree. There was not a lot. Albert looked.
I liked what I saw.
It wasn't a fun watch. There's no question. But I don't confuse my disappointment with that as to saying we got to change this or we got to do that. Obviously, the offense is still in stall mode, although some guys are getting better. Really, if you look at the difference between the Cardinals' offense from now and then like last year's second half, they got enough guys hitting that they should be better. But if you don't have Tyler O'Neill, who was a one-man wrecking crew last year, even part of it, and when he's in the lineup not doing it, it changes the whole complexion of the batting order.
I love the
Yep.
game. I had the Mets first 5 innings minus a half a run. So when they scored 4 runs in the bottom of the 5th inning, that's when I tuned out. I was good.
That's how you
That's
watch games.
All right,
Collect.
You're
regroup.
no fan.
Damn, that hour went by pretty dang quick, baby. Got a little Cardinal talk, a little baseball talk, a little Scherzer talk. That's what we do. Text line blowing up. A little bit all over Jimmy. Pumping up Sir Nathaniel here and there.
Well,
It goes
okay, well,
both
read
ways.
them. If they're killing me,
What about me?
I want to
Well,
hear
the
it.
704 is all over you. They want you to put the plug on the cat too. Send the cat down. Whatever. And
I
they're
want to
just
see
chirping.
that, but we'll read those. You're not going to read them.
Well,
I like it when I'm
just thought it
attacked.
was a little rude.
No,
I'm
let me
trying
ask
to
you this,
stick up
though.
for the wily veteran.
If you caused TJ McFarland to basically become just a shell of his former self as a pitcher, do you feel like you also, like Paul DeYoung, should go down to Memphis and figure things out at a reporting level?
It's a fair question, and I ask that question after every day that I work, and I look at the data set, and I got to admit my approach is still sharp, my efficiency is still great, and the results are still there. So no, I wouldn't say I have to go down.
All right.
And you're on a one-way contract, so you're getting paid anyway, baby.
Well, so is
Send
Paul
me
DeYoung.
down.
He doesn't like being in Memphis. I promise you that.
Oh, I know that, dude.